Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Transformation Project. I'm super excited. I mean, I get excited every time we record a podcast, but I'm extra excited because my good friend is joining us today, and I can't even explain to you like the awe that I am in when I think about this woman. She has been through so much, but the way she deals with it, and not even the way she deals with it, the way she is now going and helping other people with it, it just makes me so proud. It makes me so happy. And I knew I had to have her on the podcast because what she's going through, there's parts of it that like not many people would know about or have experience about. I had never heard about it before it happened to her, but it's so relatable to so many people. Like I know it's going to help so many people. So without me just diving into it and talking about her, welcome to the podcast, Morgan.
Thank you so much for having me on here. It's so lovely to be here, and I'm super excited to chat with you ladies.
Yeah. So you're like me, you're a Canadian living in Australia, and
Yep.
That's how we met. So your health journey is obviously like mostly what I want to speak to you about, but I take us back to where you were at and then kind of this pivot because you now live with two chronic illnesses. Like that's what you would call them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to, kind of take us through that journey so people kind of understand?
Well, before I was diagnosed with my first chronic illness, I would say I was living a pretty average life, kind of doing whatever I felt like I wanted to do without the worry of, is this going to affect me? So I was working all the time. I was playing sports, going to the gym, just
being a young 20-year-old.
Yeah, being a 20-year-old living abroad. Just recently moved to Australia, studying, had a lot on my plate, but health was never a priority or on my mind until I started getting sick.
Most 20-year-olds are kind of like, I'm invincible. I can just do whatever and my body's just going to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so you push
pretty
it.
much. and my body was handling it until it wasn't. And that is kind of where everything changed for me, because I didn't get answers for about 2 years. So I was sick and I was trying to figure out what was going on for 2 years. Once I finally got that diagnosis of being celiac, that's when things started to change and my health started to become a priority and take that front seat.
Yeah. So I think most people understand what celiac is, but could you give us a quick, like celiac versus gluten-free kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease caused by gluten, a food protein found in wheat, rye, barley, and oats. So celiac disease essentially kills the villi in your intestines that grab the nutrients from food passing through. The difference between a gluten intolerant and celiac disease is that celiacs can react a lot more significantly to it. If you're gluten intolerant, cross-contamination is fine. You understand gluten makes your belly upset, maybe you don't feel the best, but celiac, like you cannot have gluten in your diet.
Yeah. And I think it's been really hard for people recently who have celiac disease, because I am gluten intolerant and my little daughter who's 12 is gluten intolerant. And so for the most part, we can say, look, can we have gluten-free? And now people are slowly starting to understand, are you gluten intolerant or are you celiac? And it makes a difference, because for me, if you put my gluten-free bread, for example, on the same cutting board as where there was some gluten-y bread, I'll be fine.
Right.
Whereas somebody who's celiac, like that is a complete no-no. You cannot use the same utensils. You can't use the same toaster. And I think that there was a little while there where people who were celiac would say, is there gluten in this? And people would go, oh God, you're just another one of those gluten intolerant weirdos. And they wouldn't pay attention. And you guys would have been feeling some serious brunts from the back of that. So I'm really glad that a lot of restaurants and other places have actually wised up.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the process of becoming diagnosed as a celiac, I would go to restaurants and I would order gluten-free. And I would be like, I can never go back to this restaurant because within 1 minute of finishing my meal, I was so sick. So I knew that they didn't take that serious, or they didn't follow the proper procedures. As well as working in a hospitality industry pretty much my entire working life so far. I know what sometimes happens in the kitchen and whether they, follow the protocols or not. So thankfully, all the workplaces, I was able to educate the kitchen staff that this is serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were celiac. Well, you still are.
Yeah.
So you're celiac, and you were, well, I want to say you had it, I don't want to say under control, but you were very good. Like, you were still going to the gym, you were doing life.
Yeah. With my celiac, once I changed my diet to strictly gluten-free, I minimized my symptoms significantly. However, I still had low iron levels, excessive tiredness, my B12 was low. So I still wasn't absorbing those nutrients.
Actually, Morgan, can I interrupt and ask a question there?
Yeah.
Could you give people a rundown of what the symptoms are that could be celiac disease?
Yeah, absolutely. I can only speak for my symptoms myself and what I've learned through the process, but it's kind of been a roller coaster. So I first started out getting very tired. I had no idea why. I just couldn't go through the day without multiple cups of coffee, which led to blood tests and whatnot to figure out that low iron. I would bloat so significantly that it would look like I was 5 months pregnant, and it would hurt. It was rock hard. It wasn't like a soft belly. It was very hard. Going to the washroom was another huge sign that something was wrong. And I do know that other celiacs sometimes get very nauseous when they have gluten. So it really depends on the person, what they're going to react. But those were the main symptoms that I had.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, so where did you go from then? So you had your symptoms were being managed by your diet, but you were still finding other things. You still had low iron, you had low B12.
Well, what I've found now is my gut wasn't healed.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the main issue. It had been damaged for so long trying to get the diagnosis of celiac that once I was diagnosed, I still wasn't absorbing the nutrients because, like I said, all the villi in my intestines were essentially dead. So I needed to heal my gut first and start absorbing those nutrients that I was putting into my body to start to feel good again. And within 2 weeks of doing that, I felt like a whole new person.
Yeah.
And that's been the last 3 years.
So I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm going to ask it. Do leaky gut and celiac go together? Like, can you kind of have one without the other? Do you know?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. It just made me think of it.
Yeah.
I would imagine that anybody who's celiac would be struggling with leaky gut in some respect. I know even people who are gluten intolerant, that's literally where it's at and where that intolerance comes from. Because for me, my gluten intolerance shows itself in other ways of my body becoming inflamed. My joints become really sore. I get migraines, that sort of thing. So that's where my inflammation comes from. Whereas for Morgan, it would be in a different place. But it's because things that are meant to be staying inside your body are going inside of your digestive system, are going outside of your digestive, and your body is reacting to it.
Yeah.
And since healing my gut, or through the process of healing my gut, my symptoms decreased significantly. But if I do get cross-contaminated with any gluten now, I get extremely tired, like have to have a nap within 10 minutes or so. Like that's my only symptom that happens if there's an accident.
Okay. So much better, obviously, than before. Yeah. So you have 2 chronic illnesses. So this second one, POTS. Now, I had never heard of it. Can you, I guess, 2 things, give us a little story about how that came to be, like your experience with that and being diagnosed with it and stuff, and what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't say that I'm diagnosed with it until I undergo a table tilt test. However, my cardiologist and I have been working with a diagnosis of POTS syndrome to help my symptoms.
Yeah.
So what POTS is a condition that affects the autonomic nervous system. So like your blood flow and your circulation, as well as the sympathetic nervous system. So your fight or flight responses. Each case of POTS is different, and POTS patients may seem to come and go over, like your POTS symptoms may seem to come and go over the years, but there's no cure for it. So it can go into remission, but there's no known cure at the moment.
Okay.
In most cases, with the adjustment of diet, medication, physical activity, conditioning your heart again, people with POTS can live a relatively normal life. But POTS symptoms may subside if an underlying cause is found and treated.
So what do those symptoms look like for you, Morgan? How does that present for you?
So going back to the first day that it happened, I was at the gym doing a normal leg workout and finished my workout, felt fine, got in the car and started feeling car sick instantly. Kind of had my head out the window, felt really lightheaded, didn't really know what was going on, but I do get car sick sometimes. So I just figured that that could be the case.
Yeah.
Gym workout, I was hot, I was overheated, waited till I got home, which was about 5 minutes away. When I got home, that feeling didn't go away. So once the car stopped and I was in the house, had a shower, something didn't feel right. And that's all I can say is I knew that something wasn't right. So I was like, I'll go eat some food and lie down. Hopefully that'll bring my heart rate down a little bit. Because at that point, my heart was starting to beat quite fast. As I was laying down, my whole body started to tremor uncontrollably and I couldn't do anything about it. That's when I made the decision to go to the emergency room because my heart rate was beating really fast and my body was just like tremoring. In the car on the way to the emergency room, my arms became numb, and with the heart rate, my arms being numb, the tremors, I thought I was having a heart episode. Like I thought something was severely wrong. As we pulled in, I couldn't walk to the emergency room doors. I just started yelling out for help, really, and they ran a wheelchair over to me. The nurses said that I was pale, which I can imagine because I felt like I was going to faint, but it just came in waves of feeling like I'm going to faint, feeling like I'm going to throw up, and the heart beating very fast. I think my heart rate was at about 150 to 170. So it was pumping.
Yeah, like a heavy workout pumping, a run.
Yeah. So those were my initial symptoms that brought me to the hospital. In the hospital, my heart rate managed to get down to 120, just sitting in the bed. My tremors didn't stop though. And anytime I asked to stand up or to go to the washroom or something, my heart rate would jump straight up to 170, 175. So it went from 120 to 175 just upon standing, and I knew something wasn't right. Fast forward a few days and a few tests later, they discharged me. I still was feeling the exact same. My heart rate was still jumping by 30 beats per minute or more. I as I was crossing the street, thought I was going to pass out, but just figured this was what was happening. They told me I was fine, so maybe it'll pass. I went to the doctor the next day and told him that I was just admitted to the hospital for the last 3 days due to heart problems, and he did another ECG or EKG and sent me straight back to Emerge. When I got in, they took my vitals, heart rate was 170, got me straight back in and into a room. And from that day, I didn't leave for another 10 days while they did a lot of tests, just trying to figure out what was going on. So the anxiety that I had through that process wasn't helping my POTS symptoms. Mm-hmm. But I kept telling the doctors, like, I'm sorry. I hope this isn't just anxiety, but something is wrong. And I just kept repeating myself, like, I'm sorry, this isn't anxiety. Like, I know that these symptoms are coming across as anxiety, but something's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm 24 years old. I should not need a wheelchair to go to the washroom.
I'm so proud of you that you did that, Morgan, because there's so many times where people are intimidated by medical staff trying to overrule their intense gut feel that something is not right. And actually something my daughter said to us the other day, because she's studying paramedicine, she's about to be done with that, and she said one of the things her lecturer said to her is, especially in the case even with a child where the child can't speak, always trust the mother's instinct. If the mother says there's something wrong with my child, you treat it as if there is something wrong with the child. And I think that's even more important now because the immediate, as you're talking about your symptoms, in my mind, I was already thinking they're going to send you home because they're going to tell you you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And right. And so it's just, I love the fact that you just kindly, respectfully just advocated for yourself, because that's a really, really hard and intimidating thing to do when you have multiple people who may or may not have a great bedside manner insisting that you're wrong.
Yeah.
So good on you. Super proud of you for that.
Because I remember obviously speaking to you when you were in the hospital, and like, it was like every time I spoke to you, it was something different. It was like, oh, I might have blood clots. We've just done stuff for blood clots. Oh, it's my heart. Oh, like it was I remember when you told me, like, now they think I have POTS. I was like, you probably don't. They've been wrong. I know you're saying you're not officially diagnosed, but you guys are treating it as if you have POTS, and you seem to have all the symptoms, and the things you've done to help are the things that most people who suffer from POTS have said have helped. So like, assuming you have POTS, how did that like diagnosis finally come about? I know it's not official yet, but like.
And what does it stand for? Is POTS like an acronym for something?
Yeah, POTS stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So POTS essentially is any postural change, your heart rate increases by 30 beats per minute or more, and your blood pressure drops. So the reason that my doctor is treating me for POTS, and we are going with that it is POTS, is because I did multiple poor man table tilt tests in the hospital, which they had me laying to sitting to standing, and then every 2 minutes repeating that standing position until it was about a 10-minute test. I did that for 10 days straight, and I was only medicated for the last 2 or 3 days, and my heart rate was still jumping on the beta blockers. So that is why I'm happy to say that it is POTS, and I feel that the diagnosis is correct. It's because I could see my vitals
drastically change,
representing the 30 plus beats per minute. One day, thankfully, it only happened once, but one day my blood pressure dropped to like 68, and I like blacked out and fell back onto the bed. So we knew that that wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
And that feeling was horrible. So I was terrified to continue doing the tests, and I took my time to get up after that, and we were able to manage my blood pressure. So thankfully, my blood pressure has been relatively normal, a little bit on the low side, but relatively normal. It's just the heart rate that we're working with at the moment.
Yeah. So they obviously finally discharged you.
Yeah.
That feeling going home with like sort of an answer, but sort of not an answer. Can you take us a little bit through that?
Being discharged from the hospital was a huge mental challenge for me, because being hooked up for pretty much 2 weeks to a heart monitor and being able to see my heart rate on a screen whenever I wanted. If I felt off, I could look up and see, okay, it is a bit high, so there's a reason I'm feeling like this. Leaving the hospital not attached to anything was terrifying. I borrowed my partner's Apple Watch so that I could monitor something until I got my own, but I slept with that on. Like, I had that on religiously. I only take it off to shower pretty much, because that mental block is what, that's what I struggled with big time.
Yeah. And now, so like it's been 6 months, but these last 6 months have obviously not been easy for you. Like, you went from being so active to like, you still can't even get up quickly.
Yeah.
And you're working and you're busy.
And now you're back to work.
Yep.
You're meant to be flying tomorrow for the first time.
Yeah.
So all these life things, like, unfortunately, life goes on. And what I love, like, so you have these chronic illnesses, but they're not who you are. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, they require you to think about them all day. You have to think about what you eat because you're celiac. You have to now think about, I can't go and just like chase that kid in the playground.
Yeah.
Because of my heart. So you have to think about these things, but you are not can I say disease? Is that the right?
Yeah. Disease.
You are not the disease. You're not the illness.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to like go into that. How have you mentally been able to do that? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm now diabetic, and that just, it takes over their life.
Yeah.
And you're using this in a positive way to, like, you've never paid more attention to your health. You're passionate now about helping other people with their health. Like, how have you been able to mentally do that? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So obviously I had a lot of time on my hands when I was in the hospital, and I got the potential POTS diagnosis about 3 days into my second stay. So I had a lot of time to research and read, and that's what I did. And I know a lot of people say that researching your own illness and stuff like that is not necessarily always the best route, because you can scare yourself. But I needed to know everything about it, and I wanted to know everything about it and what I could do to fix it, along with the doctor's help. So that's kind of where it started for me. I knew when I left the hospital is when I was going to make a drastic change in my life. I cut coffee completely cold turkey. I used to just drink it for fun, like 2 times a day, because I worked at a cafe. So it was easily accessible to me. It was just something to do. I skipped breakfast this morning, I'll have another coffee. So I cut coffee cold turkey. I haven't drank any alcohol since then either. My food has drastically changed. I did a lot of research on different types of food that help POTS symptoms. So I do eat a lot of whole foods. I stay away from pork because it's not necessarily good for your heart. Normal person, absolutely. But for someone that's dealing with heart issues and stuff, I don't want to clog any arteries or anything like that. Now, I don't know anything medical like that. But I did, again, lots of research, and pork was something that came up. I love bacon. I haven't had bacon since because I've just become obsessive about it. And that's not necessarily a good thing, but it's gotten me back to where I am now.
I think it's important because for a lot of people, you become the expert in managing your own symptoms. And we've seen that time and time again, haven't we, Jess, where we have people that we know or clients who will go to various medical professionals, but they actually know more about their own condition than the medical professional they're talking to, not through any fault of the medical professional, but simply because it's personal to you.
Yeah.
It's literally what's going to keep you living a, happy, healthy, normal life to the best of your ability. So it's completely within your best interests to try and learn as much about it as you can, I would think. And obviously you're going to, as you said, everybody is slightly different. So you're going to find some things where you're like, well, this didn't quite work for me in my case, but you figure that out, I think. And so how have you been managing your POTS symptoms as you've kind of moved forward? Because as Jess says, you do have a relatively busy life.
Mm-hmm.
This really hasn't taken you out of commission. Like you still throw yourself wholeheartedly into life every day.
Yeah. So I'd say about the first 2 months, I was pretty much confined to a room. Getting up out of bed was a struggle, brushing my teeth, like all those essential things that you need to do that you wouldn't even think of was like, I have 5 spoons and each task is taking a spoon away from me that day. And what I've found to help me manage my symptoms early on, I did a liver cleanse because I did read that there's this so-called virus called the Epstein-Barr virus that lives in your liver and is dormant but can become active and can cause POTS. So again, I'm just, let's do a liver cleanse. Since doing that liver cleanse, my symptoms have significantly improved. So I've taken what I learned through that 9-day cleanse and implemented that into my everyday life. So I eat a lot of those same foods. I drink celery juice. I drink 4 liters of water a day, like just to manage those symptoms, because I know it helps me get up and get going and not feel like I'm dizzy or I'm going to faint or my heart's racing. So those are the main things that I've implemented into my day to just help me live a relatively normal life again.
Anything with physical activity?
I'd say the only physical activity I get is just walking around. I haven't gotten back into the gym yet. It is a goal of mine to start back, but again, this happened right after a gym session. So for me, I'm scared.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm scared. So it's gonna be something that comes with time and healing, I guess.
Yeah. Is there anything you can do on a mental side? Like would something like meditation help there?
I think meditation would definitely help, but that's not really the approach that I've gone, just because I'm not familiar with it and haven't really dipped my toes into meditation. What I do to relax myself and to get my heart rate down is listen to worship music. That has gotten me through a lot of my episodes and helped me calm down straight away, just because that is a huge part of my life.
I think that's totally like a type of meditation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that's what helps. I always had one AirPod in at the hospital, constantly playing worship music, because hospitals can be very intense. The sounds, the screams, the chaos, it was during a COVID peak as well. So I couldn't have visitors very often. So I was very felt alone. So that really helped me calm anxiety or calm my heart rate when it did go off.
Yeah. And I think that's something too. It's almost like a trigger in an opposite sense, because if that is something that you find calming, bringing that in is what calms you now. I know when we had our little one in hospital with bacterial meningitis when she was 4 weeks old, I had really relaxing, a specific classical nature sound baby relaxation thing that I had that I would play. And even now, as a 12-year-old, if she is stressed, those same songs will calm her down now. And we had them playing all the time. I had her door closed and I had that music playing all the time, and it still calms her now, because I guess it makes a connection in your brain of, smells and sounds and things. So it's amazing that you've managed to find something that immediately you can tap into that, and that works for you. Yeah, incredible. So just to close off, do you have any words of wisdom for people who may be either going through their own chronic illness now, or who may be in that situation where you were for 2 years going, I feel in my gut something is wrong, but nobody's believing me right now?
Absolutely. A piece of advice that I would have for anyone struggling with a health diagnosis or chronic illness, and what has helped me tremendously through this journey, has been the phrase, take it one day at a time. Your body's telling you something, so just slow down and listen. Doctors are amazing and they're there to help you, but they can only do so much in the healing process. Your desire and positive headspace and willpower to heal your body will play a huge factor in your recovery and situation. And I just think it's less about being perfect and it's more about being consistent. So optimize your digestion before you're going to do a cleanse. I did have my digestion under control before I decided to do that 9-day cleanse, 4 pots, but I wouldn't have just completely changed my diet to jump straight into a cleanse. That would shock your body. So it is a slow process, but just the willpower to get through it. That's my advice. And
I agree. I think consistency is so important for everything. But I admire you so much, Morgan. I know I've said it so many times, but just exactly what you just said, your positivity, because literally you had no idea what was going on. You had no idea what the answer was going to be, how to fix it, anything. And I know obviously there were dark moments in there. I'm not saying you were positive the whole time, but your outlook in general was so positive. And it just continues to be so positive. Like, I know you've had episodes and flare-ups and stuff, and you're still like, I can do this. I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to be okay. And exactly what you just said, tomorrow's another day. Like, I'm going to take it a day at a time and just do a little bit more, a little bit better. And I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of everything you've gone through with this, everything you're still doing. I know this is going to help other people going through something similar, and every chronic disease is different, but I think the scary unknown is what's really going to help people get through it. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's not easy. I'm sure you want to forget what happened 6 months ago, but so thank you for bringing it up and reliving the hospital with us a little bit there. If anyone wants to find you, talk to you, are they able to contact you?
Absolutely. They can contact me on my business Instagram, _Morgan.Boyd.
Yeah, perfect. We'll put that in the show notes and stuff for everybody to get to. But I think if anyone's going through something similar, don't be afraid to reach out. It can be scary and overwhelming, but there's other people who have been through it too. So thank you again for sharing, Morgan. Thank you for being on with us.
Thank you for having me again.
Morgan. It's been so good to chat with you today. And come on, and as Jessica says, like, we know that this is not easy, and we know for anyone out there that's struggling with this, it's not easy. There are a hell of a lot more of you than you think there are, that are out there with knowing that something's not up, and you're being told that you just have anxiety, or you just have depression, or you just have whatever it is, and you know in your heart of hearts that there is something not right. So we would encourage you to really hook into that. Make sure that you're getting heard. And if nobody is hearing you where you are going, look elsewhere. So if you're going in a traditional channel or a particular way and you're not getting an answer, please keep looking. You are always welcome to reach out to Morgan. You're welcome to comment underneath any of our podcasts. You're welcome to go onto our page, which is just www.thetransformationproject.net.au, and we have a contact us section. And you're welcome to put a message there, and we'll be able to reach out. If you do have something that you would like us to talk about, or something that you would like us to find an expert to talk about, please do message us that as well. And we're more than happy to find somebody to speak about any particular topic that you would like us to. And as always, wherever you are, anywhere in the world, we hope you're having an absolutely incredible day. And we will see you next time on The Transformation Project.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of The Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast, we're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.